Boromir woke with a start, his foot kicking at the damp air of his cell. It was as though he had been falling from a great height, either into a bottomless darkness or into a roaring white light. Someone was unlocking the door. It swung open and the goblin with the hunchback and the upturned nose hobbled in. Boromir sat up eagerly, stretched towards the goblin as it dumped the dish barely within his reach. His wrists were bound with hefty iron bands, linked by a chain of perhaps a yard in length. The chain was looped through an iron hoop that was fixed firmly to the stone floor. The goblin sniggered as Boromir stretched out his bare foot. He managed to inch the dish towards him with his big toe.
Every time.
Boromir sighed.
You'd think you'd get bored of it. Do you think today might be the day you tell me what I'm doing here?
The goblin sniggered and backed away through the door, and this was the only interaction he'd had with his hosts. Once a day, or night, this stunted goblin would bring him a tin plate with whatever muck they deemed was edible. Boromir had the feeling that his little guest room was deep underground. There was no window, and he had not heard the wind or bird song since he was dumped here. He still did not know why. He knew where. Or at least he had a good idea. The orcs had spotted him as soon as he was within a league of the fords of Isen, as Theodred said they would. He'd left Edoras on the first day of August, and they'd captured him the day after near the Gap of Rohan. Lostal is trotting along the Great West Road, her dappled light grey coat bright in the sun. Boromir looks away to the south at the Three-Hern. The three peaks of the mountain stand proud and white against the cloudless sky. Scanning round, he sees the road ahead is clear, but then a movement catches his eye to the north. A band of orcs riding wolves hard towards the pass. He thinks about stopping as they disappear behind a rocky hillock. Hoping that they're riding through the gap, he slows Lostal to a walk. But soon, the wolf riders are heading towards him. Boromir urges his horse into a gallop, hoping to reach the gap before the orcs reach the road. But he soon sees the folly of it. Another band of orcs comes charging at him from the boulder-strewn heath to the south of the road. Lostal greets the orcs splendidly, calmly slowing to a walk, then halting in the middle of the road. Boromir dismounts purposefully as the riders surround them. He keeps his expression impassive. But then he sees a gap in the wolves and takes his opportunity. He lets go of the reins and slaps Lostal on the rump. In his best Rohirric, he orders her to run. As Boromir holds up his hands, Lostal charges through the gap, and a couple of the riders chase her south towards the Three-Hern. Later, while the orcs march him along the eastern banks of the Isen, the two wolf riders return without their quarry.
Well,
barks one of the orcs. Boromir is hooded, so he must assume that the speaker is a sergeant or a captain.
we lost it.
Boromir stood hunched over the iron ring in the middle of his cell. He couldn't stand upright, but he dropped to his haunches, then stood again. He repeated the exercise, but he wasn't sure if it was doing him any good. He wondered where Lostal might be now. He hoped that she'd spent the last month wandering the lower slopes of the mountain, grazing and watering herself, evading capture and keeping his valuables and provisions safe. It was more than a month. It must be almost 6 weeks. He'd had the pleasure of being held captive by orcs before, albeit in one of their camps in the pass of Cirith Ethir. He and Faramir had been scouting near the head of the Poros and had been surrounded by a large band of slave runners from Nirn. It had been easy enough to escape from there. But this was something else, a cell, deep underground. A lone guard who may or may not hold the keys, required to free himself. Then there was the place itself. He had never been to Orthanc, but he knew of its impregnability. If it was difficult to get in, it would be difficult to get out. And then there was the ring of Isengard. It stood nigh on 1/2 mile from the tower, its walls high and thick, unbroken, but for the doors to the south. His captors had frog-marched him more than 30 miles north of the fords before they had reached the ring. He would have to trudge back, half-naked, bootless, undetected, until he reached the place where he'd left Lostal. And still he had no notion as to why he had been imprisoned for so long. He had not met his host, for it was certain that Saruman knew of his presence, even if he had not ordered his capture. Boromir's days were long, dark caverns of nothingness. He had grown accustomed to looking forward to the next time he ate, trying to fill his days with music, sleeping as best he could on the damp floor, and wishing he'd turned Lostal and ridden hard back along the Great East Road to Helm's Deep.